Smurfing here in the LCS with picks like the Camille, the Trundle, you all remember from their game against Vitality. He's just been popping off and carrying his team in these matches.
Absolutely. We want to see that same early game proactivity on the opposite side for Splyce, however, as we enter the bans. Nocturne, Vladimir, and Aurelia all going to be taken off the board.
I love the Vladimir ban because whenever it's open, ROCCAT take it. 3 games for Prophet in the top lane, 1 game for Heaq in the bottom lane. And now we have to see a little bit of a shift here because ROCCAT have typically put Prophet on this champion so he can have a huge impact in the late game team fights. And ROCCAT's games have gone later than any other team so far this split.
Yeah, important to look at that. We talk about Giants as the late game king, but it's ROCCAT giving them a run for their money, actually taking first longest game time. And now Talia's banned out, the Swain as well, but Vladimir still feels like the biggest story here in terms of takeaways. Now the last chance for ROCCAT to respond before Splice get their chance at a first pick.
My eyes sort of go to Dr. Mundo here. Where does he fall in the draft? Been talked about as one of, if not the best top laner in the moment, and certainly a very strong blind pickable option for either of these two players.
Well, Trundle will get banned away, something that would love to steal stats from a Dr. Mundo. Maybe this frees up Splice to pick it, although huge top lane pool currently available. Maybe they want to save a last pick for Odoamne. He's not looking super cheery, but he's going to get the Aatrox, so you know that has to make him feel happy. No dog champs today. Get something he can win lane on.
And Camille for Memento, of course, the early game playmaking champion. I love this combination of Camille plus Zoe. It's one we see so often because they can lock down one member and absolutely blow them up. The control from the mid lane and the jungle duo is pivotal in this match.
And I like this response. Hey, you want to lock us in a little prison there, Camille? We'll come right back in. Galio comes out, and so much engage already coming in on both sides. CC, so much fun to watch in these team fights.
And I also remember Nisqy playing quite a bit of Galio in the past when he was much more about facilitating and setting up his teammates for success. So there's going to be a lot more emphasis on Odoamne and Kobbe to be stepping up in this match, even though it's been Nisqy all the way so far this split.
And interestingly, Shen is going to be the response. So some global pressure here to balance out the semi-global pressure that Galio brings to the table. We'll find out where the Shen wants to go, if it'll be the top lane, if it'll be the support position. Nothing revealed quite yet, but both teams with a very different take. You know, Camille, Zoe, Shen feels like picks. On the opposite side, we've got a lot of teamfight potential.
A very strong top laner for Odoamne up there. Even against the Shen, once this guy gets to 1-2 items, finishes off that Ginsu's Rage Blade, can absolutely start tearing through teams. But now, I immediately see this Rakan ban. I'm wondering, what is Norskeren gonna play? Because him on Playmakers is a completely different story to Norskeren on Tahm Kench, and Rakan has definitely been one of those big ones for him.
Take it away, Pyke is still up and available. ROCCAT taking their time on the second ban. They have the luxury of last pick, so they're gonna get a little bit more flexibility in this draft, especially crucial on patch 8.11 and forward, as we are now on 8.12. It will be the Tahm Kench ban. A lot of pinching down onto the support pool here. Have to wonder, Kasing also, you know, looking for usually a very specific type of champion. You heard about the Soraka and the Fiddlesticks earlier. See who's actually going to be more limited.
And there's still the option, of course, to put Shen down in that supportive position and let Prophet play something that can stack up 1 versus 1 against the Aatrox. If they do that, then both top laners will have the global support of a Galio on Splice's side and, of course, the Shen on the side of ROCCAT if these teams want to play around their top laners, which is certainly a possibility, I feel.
Interesting, the Zig's going to get banned away. Nal looking to give Heaq that free bot priority that he does love to have so much. What's the option going to be? Support pool has been contested. Some of the bot laners taken off the board as well. Are we just going to see a Pyke here locked in for Norskeren? Or ROCCAT going to take a bit more time? As the Shen would be forced into the top lane if support gets locked in.
All right, so Lucian, Shen, not a bad lane in the bot side. A lot of all-in threat from that Shen if he is able to land asleep, but still options over on the side of ROCCAT. They can feel out what Splice are going to lock in for their 2 versus 2. There's been criticism against Kasing's champion pool. Is he going to play something that looks to dominate the lane like the Fiddlesticks? In that case, punish him. But if he goes for something along the lines of an Alistar, it's going to be much more difficult for ROCCAT.
Kasing on the all-in support. This is a champion that can roam. This is a champion that can dominate if it gets an advantage. How are they going to round this out? What's the last pick going to be? See, this is the worst part about Kasing, is that he's always just going to hover the Zillion, and I respect him for it, but it means we never have any idea what's coming until like 2 seconds left.
Yeah, this is an interesting team comp, though, from Splice, because they've got so many melee champions, a thing we've been seeing way more frequently across the different regions. I feel like an AD carry would round out this comp very, very well, because front-to-back team fights with this very, very powerful front line has got to be a good look for Splice.
Ezreal coming in, not the traditional hyper carry you usually expect in the hands of Kobbe, but still a very good champion, and a little bit of safety there, just to make sure that he doesn't go down to the Camille, to the Zoe, to the aggressive Lucian we expect to see in the early game. 7 seconds left. Focus is the story for Norskeren here, and it's going to get locked in. Another Kindred. I mean, you look at all the tanks on this lineup, it does look like a pretty solid option.
So the one switch around we didn't expect necessarily was the Camille in the top lane for Prophet. He hasn't played it so far this split. There is potential to work around him in the early game. Again, these top laners are going to be facing off head-to-head with support from their teams. I can't, downplay or upplay enough how important this matchup is in the top lane.
And if you're Prophet, you got to be uncomfortable, because that Dark Flight comes in from Aatrox. There's a sejuani there to start stacking up that passive, lock you up, freeze you, take you down. A little bit nerve-wracking, but predictions have been heavily in the favor of ROCCAT. So how is Splice going to win this game?
Splice, they're going to play around Odoamne in the top lane very early on. Of course, Xerxe on the sejuani. There's a lot of built-in synergy there with the melee auto attacks from allies, letting you get that stun off more quickly. If they shut down this Camille early on, they can just dominate the entire map off of Odoamne's pressure.
See if that's going to be the case. Both coaches walking off stage, both compositions now locked in. ROCCAT without some of the scaling picks that they've found success on. A little bit different this time around. Heaq, Norskeren, a little bit more early dominance they could potentially look for. And top lane, as you said, name of the game. Odoamne versus Prophet. And Xerxe, where's he going to be? Because that's the biggest question mark for me, Ender. This is a man who's had up and down performances. This is a man who has been the best jungler in EU at times, and also easily bottom 5 just a few weeks later.
And last split, he was the best. First pro team here in the EU LCS. The start of the split has not looked good for Xerxe, has not looked good for the rest of Splice, but they got their first win of the split yesterday. They're going to try to carry that momentum with another win here to take them into Rift Rivals next week.
It's time, folks. Splice versus ROCCAT. Who will come out on top? Splice currently sitting at 1-4, finding their first win yesterday after a disastrous 2 weeks. Now ROCCAT, a little bit less consistent, but finding some wins of their own. 3-2, looking to advance to 4-2, keeping them tied up with Fnatic. Maybe not a place you'd expect them to be, but some solid performances netted them some wins thus far.
And I just love it. It's the second game in a row we get to see the Kindred, this time in the hands of Memento, the madman in the jungle for ROCCAT. Has had so many astounding early game performances, and this is another matchup where we see Kindred against a heavy frontline team, against a heavy tank team, where she can build the Blood Razor and have such a big impact in not only the early game, but the late game team fights.
Seen a lot of level 1s here. Xerxe can take a little bit of damage there as Wolf chomps down, just a warning shot, but we'll give basic information on where the junglers are going to go. Everyone knows the top lane is the focus. Hilariously enough, both junglers now moving to the bot side, so it looks like they can path back to the top side. Find out who can get the first gank off if we'll just see the full-on 2v2 on the top side. Misfits earlier today blew the game wide open with one of those. See if ROCCAT can do the same.
And of course, river control with a Kindred in the game, even more important at the start of the match so that she can go ahead and secure herself the Scuttle Crab. But interestingly enough, it's not Memento starting on a red buff and running immediately into either side of the river to start that up. No. He's going for much more of a heavier style Klee here, starting on the bottom side of the map and then waiting till he sees where his mark is going to spawn before he makes that attack.
Taking a little bit of time, playing a little bit more patiently, may make it a little bit more difficult to contest. We'll see exactly how this jungle matchup plays out. A bit of vision will reveal the Scuttle Crab.
That RNG. Wrong side, buddy.
Not going to work out. Xerxe now going to move up, try to take one for himself. Looks like he knows he has the time now to stop at the blue buff. So this is a good start for Xerxe overall. Unfortunate for Memento. Would have loved to have that first stack. And while it's definitely not end of the world, it's not that great for him either.
And this also sets up Xerxe for a play early on the top side, because right now Prophet is shoving out his lane. ROCCAT should expect Xerxe to be on this area of the map as well, but Xerxe is actually going to be going for his wolves. He's not on to that Scuttle Crab just yet. He's taking a much more slow approach, which I'm personally not a big fan of here.
That's one of the big criticisms left against Xerxe is he just hasn't been super active in the early game, specifically with Odoamne. Now that changed yesterday. They went for those early aggressive top lane tower dives. They used the Aatrox passive to reset the tower aggro and made some beautiful plays. It's a bit of a different story, and Prophet doing a good job to keep forcing. Nisqy, though, trying to get down to a little bit more vision about the Scuttle Crab. Keep in mind, Xerxe has not gotten one yet. It would suck to not be able to split 1-for-1 here on the first spawn.
And here's the thing. Xerxe is relatively low in the jungle, but Memento just assumes that it's already been taken. This is actually very, very funny because if Memento walked into the river right now, he 100% bullies Xerxe out of the area. Both top lane and mid lane are pushing waves in favor of ROCCAT. Xerxe's slow start is not actually punished by the ROCCAT jungler.
Not going to hurt much at all. Krugs are going to get picked up by Memento. That will be nice for him to have. Engage on the top side for Odoamne. Sets up the passive there. Not going to push for anything more, though. Plays safe. Doesn't know 100% where the Kindred is. And a good call indeed, because Memento is waiting in the brush. Could look for a play, but that's going to open up Xerxe to head to the bottom side if they do spot him out here.
There are a lot of ranged minions on the side of Splice. It looked for a second like Prophet was going to let this wave shove on in, but Odoamne giving a lot of respect to the fact that Memento is very likely on this side of the map at this point in the game because he knows he started on the bot side and doesn't have any camps in that area. But Norskeren, this man, when he's roaming, has been so impressive, and of course not going to be looking for a play, but the deep vision is very important.
Setting up that deep vision, helping mid lane out a little bit for Blanc as well. It's a good look. Now we look at Splice, look at their victory yesterday, and one guy who's been standing out for a long time, ever since spring playoffs, in fact, has been Nisqy. He looks good, and you can see the damage percentage, you can see the kill participation. That's great, but now he's on Galio. It's a little bit of a different role for this guy, and I'm curious to see how Splice utilize one of their primary carries.
But this is a role that Nisqy was used to playing in the spring split, and I think it's important to make that distinction because when you have a player like Nisqy that for so long was a facilitator for his team, played picks like the Galio and set them up for success, he was never in the position where he was getting all these resources and trying to carry out the game as bot lane gets a little bit heated.
Taunt does come out, Kasing now taking a lot of damage. Norskeren moving right back in. EQ using the Lucian damage pretty well there. Shadow Dash can stop a little bit of the aggression there. Taunt now coming in. That is a sleepy Galio. Maybe not quite what he wanted, but Nisqy is just going to flash immediately out. Xerxe is here. They don't want to push any further. Kindred not going to get the third auto, so Nisqy will be fine for now. Xerxe there just to make sure that they can't push in anymore. We'll get the wave pressure in the end, but not a whole lot else. His top lane training continues to get really aggressive. Prophet could just block the passive right here, but isn't going to push for anything else, and slowly starting to fade if he does not hit a champion. Opportunity for him to go in with the hookshot wall dive, but Xerxe on the way top now, ready for a potential all-in.
Prophet has been pushing this entire laning phase so far. Now is the moment where Xerxe has the opportunity to make the play, but it is still very difficult to lock down a Camille unless she goes in with the hookshot.
Odoamne trying to bait. There you go. Can he kill Odoamne? The flash is coming out, buying a little bit of time. Prophet trying not to burn his summoners. Leaping back to safety. Prophet just wants to make it out here. Challenging smite does go down. Prophet now flashing to safety. One more auto attack. The stun is going to come in. They may just take him down right here. The passive is now up for Odoamne. Not going to get procced, and Prophet makes it out, but you have to wonder if he could have gotten more there.
I mean, him getting out is such a big win for him, too, because he got such a good trade against Odoamne right before that play went down. Odo couldn't go in immediately. Prophet had enough time for that hookshot to come back off a cooldown and ultimately survive.
Solid start thus far. Wave will get pushed in. TP already used, so he's going to lose a little bit of CS here. Odoamne approaching a level advantage at this stage. We'll see if it evens out. Memento going to grab a mark on the bottom side of the map. First one of the game for him. Not quite the same as Broxa with the 4 marks in 7 minutes, but a little bit more standard for what we expect. Blanc, of course, spotted out on the ward as he re-enters lane.
There we go.
For the Drowsy. Shen is here as well. So is Kindred. We talked about the play, and they're going to look to make it under the tower. Nisqy's flash has been taken away. Oh. They're going to make the flash taunt. Beautiful first blood from ROCCAT.
Jungle, mid, support, synergy. That is what ROCCAT is so very good at. Norskeren, you notice he went for his first base, ran immediately right down that middle lane to time a perfect gank with Memento.
And that is clean League of Legends. They got the summoner early, happy to follow it up with a little bit more. Just well played, and that plays with that ward not actually in the brush.
Yeah, Blanc here, so much faith in his teammates, using his own flash to land that sleepy bubble before the rest of his team was even in the area. Of course, that CC duration so long allows them to set up for that kill onto Nisqy.
And a few minutes ago, we saw that graphic from Blanc. This is his first professional game in Zoe, so you have to imagine he's feeling pretty good when he's got a jungler and a support there to back him up, to set him up for success. You see the CS differential in the mid lane. He's already got the Lost Chapter. And if you're Blanc, you're feeling pretty cozy here in this mid lane, because if you can kill a Galio, a tankier champion by far, then, well, the Ezreal, champions like the Aatrox, maybe a little bit easier to take down. Yeah,
the only thing he would have to be concerned about now is the fact that he did use his flash during that play, but of course still has the cleanse to deal with the potential level 6 gank from Xerxe, the jungler that has only made that one play towards the top end of the map, but now that there's a lot of summoners blown on the side of ROCCAT, he has options to try and make that first one work out.
Now, I know we're really eager to see Xerxe make more early game plays, but slowing down the game, less aggressive games, not finding early avenues, who actually scales better here, Ender? Who would actually be able to take it to the late game and come out ahead?
I really like Splice, mainly because of the fact that their front line is so powerful. Their front-to-back teamfight is very, very good. There's just a lot of carries on the side of ROCCAT. There's not that same level of teamfight. Kindred blocks a lot of weaknesses with her ultimate when you don't run heavy tanks, but...
Was spotted. Xerxe on the way up. ROCCAT need to pull the trigger on the play, but they do not know the Memento has been spotted. Small error means he has been caught out. He's going to go. Blood will immediately used. He is going to resurrect right there, but in comes Xerxe. The ultimate going to go right out onto Prophet. Memento wants to grab one back. Hasn't thrown down the ultimate for himself. A little bit late. He could have saved the teammate. That's not at all what he wanted. TP comes in. Bye-bye to Memento. Clean play from Splice.
Absolutely fantastic from them. They have the priority. They have teleports from their bottom laners. That was Kobbe that got involved in the top lane of all people. Of course, ROCCAT will be able to trade for some damage on the bottom lane turret, but this is what we want to see out of Splice, that proactive early game playmaking.
Just good patience. Odoamne baiting in, knowing that he had the revive passive to bring him back. Now pressuring out on the top lane tower, and if you're Splice, you have to be happy with that exchange. It doesn't balance out the gold entirely. It's a damn good start.
The laning phase just going so well for ROCCAT. That's why it's still even. And for Prophet, he gets caught underneath the turret just a little bit. I think Memento slow on the ultimate. He was trying to get Odoamne chunked out before, but the lockdown going down onto his partner in crime, they didn't have enough to knock down the Aatrox.
Yeah, a little bit grim there, but of course, looks like he was most likely caught in the Dance of Arrows animation. Pretty long one, so could not get the ulti down until completed. A little bit unfortunate there, but not the end of the world. Gold dead even. No towers have dropped for either side quite yet. Now we have to see if ROCCAT can get the game back under their control, or if after that play, Splice are going to start to dictate the pace of this game.
Maybe what ROCCAT want to do, continue to play around this middle lane. Blanc is doing very well for himself, both in CS and with that kill they got over Nisqy in the mid. But bottom lane, too, is looking very good. Heaq has been able to edge out a very large advantage as far as CS is concerned. And this Lucian, once he starts working on that Blade Ruined King, it's definitely a force to be reckoned with.
Absolutely, and we talked about it with the Devour enchantment for Memento, also similar with the Blade of the Rune King. It'd be really nice to have the sustain, as well as the ability to shred through these champions. Prophet playing it safe, though, is going to back out. You can see he knows now that he doesn't have the same priority. Blanc still trying to poke on a Nisqy, not quite as easy as it once was, now that Catalyst comes through. Across the board, the game slows down at least a little bit. Drake will come down, but it's not the Ocean Drake we saw last game. It's not as nice in the early game. Will help some of these roaming champions, but definitely not the Mountain or the Infernal they would be hoping for.
Right now, Splice, Nisqy was considering a move into the top lane, really playing into that style that Splice, we wanted out of them in champs, like get Prophet behind, put Odoamne in a position to carry out the game, because ROCCAT, they're really focused around this mid lane.
Really want to get more here, but difficult against the Galio.
A little bit early on that smite.
And those are the little things. Prophet, though, you can see he's committed to the laning phase. The double Doran's coming out. Odoamne, not quite as much, but shield and the sword, or the shield and the blade, rather, will help him a decent amount. Of course, jungle items have started to come through. Devour, we just mentioned moments ago, is going to be important for Memento, especially when you see that Cinder Hulk on the opposite side.
Yeah, the max HP shred damage there on the Blood Razor, very, very powerful against any tank in general, and when you're against 4, it's even that much better. All these players that are building a bunch of HP as opposed to resistances benefits a lot, but he's only at 2 hunt stacks at the moment.
Yeah, definitely not quite where you want to be, but of course not an incredibly bloody game, so a little bit harder to snowball here, reliant almost exclusively on those jungle camps. And you see the ping's going down. Not going to start the cheeky rift here, only 12 minutes in. May just go for the play on the top side of the map. For now, just going to clear vision. They know he's going. Kasing, though, moving his way into the mid lane. This is something that we wanted to see. It's going to be the knockup. The chain CZ. Blanc is now going to cleanse and flash out. Prophet moving in on the top side, though. They're trying to make a play in the meantime. Shen ulti is coming in. Odoamne is not going to be able to get the passive reset. They are going to take him down. Kill for ROCCAT. TP going in, but it is going to get canceled. Remaining members of ROCCAT are just below them, but it looks like they're going to back off. And just a single kill for ROCCAT.
It was a large price for Blanc to pay there. Both of his summoner spells, but the rest of ROCCAT were ready to pounce in the top lane. And now it's a little bit upside down. ROCCAT are trying to get this turret, but the rest of Splyce do not want to hand it over so easily.
And they have to be ready to commit for the dive if they want to get anything more. Sleepy Alistar, Norskeren walking in, tanking the tower aggro, denying it from the minions for now, but just 50% of the health there taken down. ROCCAT really wanted that tower, could not get it, but they will have the 1k gold lead.
Still, though, the advantage goes over in their favor. Going to lose some minions in the mid lane as Nisqy shoves this out, but small price to pay for that kill in the top lane and the chunk on the turret damage. I wonder how soon it is until Memento tries to solo away that Rift Herald. That's something that Kindred most definitely can do for herself, and could be a good tool for ROCCAT to try and snowball this game a little bit harder.
Definitely a good option. And when you look at ROCCAT as a team, this is the team that, like, for the first time in a long time has kept their talent, but we'll hold that thought. Prophet, you said it yourself, burning all those sums just to make this play happen.
Yep, and again, right before this play happened, ROCCAT saw everything thrown into the mid lane onto Blanc. So weren't at much risk when they went in for that play.
As I was saying before, though, ROCCAT, you know, historically have lost players between splits. They've always had to make swaps, and it's one of the first times where they've really kept their talent. And the talent has been growing. We have to credit them for that. They've always been this team. Vedia's always liked to describe them as a team with clearly good macro sense, but all the pieces never quite came together. And for a team that's 3-2 right now, that's contesting for 4th place, their development looks really good. And Splyce, a team that's been struggling, you know, kind of struggling to keep up a little bit in some of these plays.
It's good, too, because you can say positive things about all their players. Memento and Norskeren, they're the ones making the proactive plays early on, snowballing the game to buy time for Prophet and Heaq to then come online as those late-game teamfight geniuses. Blanc, though, the one being potentially caught out by Splyce.
Memento is there, going to go out, going to come right back in. Memento wants to get in the middle of this, wants to use the ultimate, is going to use it to buy Blanc a little bit of time. Invulnerable for now. Xerxe could be in trouble. Memento does a lot of damage, but I don't know if he's got enough here. Odoamne going in for the kill. Memento is going to make it over the wall. They have used the Galio. Odo's going to chase it down, though. That's 2 in the end for Splyce. So Odoamne kills Memento. Heaq could just be next on the Memento, dodging the Mystic shots as best he can, but another one drops. Splyce. Fantastic collapse on the Blanc.
I mean, they're beating ROCCAT at their own game, going for these aggressive plays around that mid lane. Have to give props there to Odoamne and Xerxe running around together, making stuff happen, and punishing the lack of summoner spells on Blanc.
It's cast a curse, Ender. Right as we praise ROCCAT for their growth, Splyce come roaring back, and this is the kind of Splyce fans have been waiting to see, the confidence in Splyce.
Xerxe and Nisqy at the start. Great accuracy there from Xerxe. Not too hard without a flash, but chain CC is true. Memento does as much as he can to try and save his mid laner, but then he sticks around a little bit too long and loses his own life in the process.
Ooh. Sadly, not the most beautiful of highlight reels for Heaq there. A bit of a fumble there in the fight overall. Dashes, trying to get into the back line, trying to find a single kill. Starts to count against them, and while ROCCAT had a lead for a very small period of time there, it is now turned in the favor of Splyce. Splyce 1-4, and I think despite that fact, we've been waiting for this team to get back into shape. And this is a good start, especially when you consider they're a Rift Rivals representative.
A lot of times, all it takes is a little bit of confidence to make that happen. Sometimes, it's a difference in champion. For Kasing, his duo proximity is much higher than the ULCS average in this game, and outside of this game, it has been on the low end. So having him pick up the Alistar, move around the map is a very good look for the Splyce support that was criticized leading into this match.
Now the tower will fall, however, Splyce going to fire back with an objective of their own. They're holding on as best they can, sadly. Odoamne just continues to push in on the top side. Things were looking okay for a Camille for a while, even when some of those plays turned against Prophet, but things are definitely getting harder now. The Galio, the revive passive, the extra tankiness of Xerxe initially could be pretty key, but TP is being used. ROCCAT not quite able to grab that tier 2 tower.
The power of 2 marksmen when pushing in a side lane. Very, very strong there between Memento and Heaq to try and knock that one down. It was just a teleport off of Kasing, so not quite as valuable as that of perhaps an Odo TP would be.
Absolutely, and I do want to take a second to kind of give some praise to Xerxe. Very critical of this player in the past for not being active enough. And while he didn't have the most active early game ender, 2-0-2, 80% kill participation, now using the Herald as well to try to force a play here. It's a good look for Xerxe.
Yep, he was in the right places at the right time. Started top, now it's the mid.
Ooh, Odo is going to get taunted there on the Dark Flight. Could be in trouble here if he doesn't activate the passive, but the tower will go down. Kasing is off to the side if they want to push any further. And yet another tower secured for Splyce, 2-1 in their favor.
And now it becomes a little bit more difficult for ROCCAT, down almost 3,000 gold, with a composition that ideally wants to be ahead and inside the enemy jungle looking for picks with champions like the Zoe and the Camille. And all Splyce have to really do is group up as a 4-man unit. They can drop Odo in a side lane and really start to pressure around the map, bully ROCCAT on their own side of the map.
And I just love what Splyce are doing right now. Using Odo, he's using his pressure on the top side to come gank mid, to come show up, to force these plays, to use the Rift Herald. It is a good look, but the game is not over yet. We have to see if Splyce can keep it together, if they can keep this coordination up. First item does come in for Odo, though. He's happy to get the Titanic Hydra. Will allow him to keep pushing in on the top side.
One concern I do have for Splyce, maybe a little bit of lack of damage in the later stages of the game. Of course, Kobbe not going for Trinity Force this time around, recognizes that there's 3 physical damage threats on the side of ROCCAT, and he wants himself that Iceborne Gauntlet. But assuming we do make it to the late game, even though compositionally Splyce have a very good team fight, have a lot of wombo combo, have the tankiness, could be difficult. They fall behind.
Nisqy, taunt not going to connect yet. Xerxe on the way in. Taunt does manage to go in. Shen is getting burned down quite quickly. Norskeren has bitten off more than he could chew. The flash already out, looking for the Shadow Dash. Is going to make it out now. Any other follow-up? Norskeren running for his life. The flash forward. Challenging smite as well. Norskeren just a little bit longer on that Shadow Dash. He's trying to make it out to safety. He is going to get it. Double Cloud Drake, folks. We don't care about him until moments like this. And now it is saving his butt. Norskeren makes it out. My God.
That's the Lehen special, the crazy Shen escapes that we saw over in the LCK. Does look like ROCCAT is going to be losing this turret down bottom side, but Norskeren getting away by Chin Chin Chin.
Looks like it's going to be 3 towers to 3, or rather, yeah, 3 towers to 3. Of course, important to note that that bottom tier 2 did fall down there. It does work out most.
Ooh.
It's not last game. It's not last game. We know,
a lot
audience. We saw the flashbacks. You were ready. You saw the Zyra in your eyes just dying in front of you. Not this time. Memento now going to move in. The TP being used to save the minion. They're going to break yet another tower. I really love this from ROCCAT. Coming back, getting a little bit more control here. Baron spawning just around the corner. While they might not be able to take it quite yet, there's a marked scuttle. The Memento is going to hunt down.
It'll be only his 3rd hunt of the game. It's the amazing chase is not going that well for Memento as far as stacking up that passive. Of course, 4, like I mentioned the last game, is really where Kindred gets very happy out of the jungle, but I do like that move out of ROCCAT, keeping the gold even, because again, this is a team that wants to be a little bit on the front foot, want to be able to set up traps where they can use the power of Blanc in this mid game to find those individual targets.
One thing you got to say is that it's clear that ROCCAT are ready for the front-to-back team fighting of Splyce. They're ready for all these tanks, because you can see 2 Black Cleavers in process for Heaq and Memento. They are both ready to shred through that tank lineup. But so much now just feels like it's going to come down to execution on the side of Splyce. We know what a wombo combo can do when you got a sejuani, you've got a Galio, you've got an Aatrox. If you hit all those abilities, people die. But if you mess it up, you are definitely going to get popped by a Zoe, a Lucian, a Camille, a Kindred.
It's right. It's very easy to overcommit specifically into a pick like the Kindred. You think you're going to get that kill, all of a sudden the ultimate comes down and you don't quite. Now you might find yourself in a compromising position. But right now what Splyce are doing is using the priority.
Oh, flash out. Good dodge coming in. Portabelt available. Nice body block there for Norskeren, trying to buy a bit of time. Stopping and denying the play, but look on the top side of the map. Lucian and Kindred pushing in, getting pressure. Taking a breath though. They don't want to push for anything else. They don't want to take any risks here. They're just happy with that exchange.
Flashes traded between both mid laners. You have to assume that benefits the side of Splyce. The taunt flash from Nisqy isn't quite going to be there, but Blanc is a very vulnerable target.
Prophet now moving in on the bottom side. It is there. The reset is available for Odoamne, though. It's going to buy them so much time. Galio's on the way now, too. Norskeren has given up his life. Hook shot, wall dive. Oh, but there's Xerxe out of nowhere. Slowing him down with the red buff. Don't think the Cloud Drake's going to save him this time. Hook shot, wall dive. The stun is there. He's not going to make it out. Nisqy grabs the kill.
ROCCAT do trade a turret on the top side of the map, though. Still, this is very impressive because it feels like a lot of these plays that Splyce are making are off the back of their 4 teleport setup. Of course, TP on Odoamne, Nisqy, Kobbe, Kasing. All these members are getting involved in these plays. And while ROCCAT are trading for turrets, it's not necessarily the greatest of objectives. If they can get a Baron, that's where it really means a lot, but Splyce for now are going to be quite comfortable making these types of plays.
And you can see in the heads of ROCCAT what they want to do here. Use the Shen and the Camille together. It's really hard to just kill an Aatrox.
The issue is that there's 3 teleports up and available, and the one that's down is the guy they're trying to kill in this bottom lane. Xerxe, of course, is also on the way. Just a little bit over-ambitious with only 2 members of ROCCAT able to commit to that fight.
Yeah, not able to make it out that time. Blanc, though, doing a good job for his first game on Zoe. 0-1-1, not the most impressive scoreline, but has been landing a lot of these paddle stars, poking out a lot of members of the Splyce lineup. And a good look thus far, but of course, checking in. Kobbe, we talked about this team needing more damage. Probably not too short. Despite the Iceborne Gauntlet, has now finished the tier item, has completed the Blade of the Rune King, so he is going to hurt.
It's definitely coming online here with the Ezreal, and we've seen he's just been the benefactor of a lot of these plays, picking up those last hits with the Mystic shots. Now though, Splyce, we've seen them get a lot of kills here in this mid-game, but they haven't been the ones taking down the turrets. That's been all on ROCCAT's side, and for the most part, they've actually played on their own side of the map. Now's when I'd like to see them get a little bit more deep vision around the upcoming Cloud Drake, perhaps, or even more importantly, this Baron buff, so they can turn things on ROCCAT's head, so they can be the ones looking for the picks with the Sejuani.
And now we get to answer 2 questions with this game. How well can Splyce execute? How coordinated can they be as a team? Can they continue to get these wins? Can they move themselves up to 2-4? And ROCCAT, moving into the late game, potentially, without a late game composition. How will they fare? No Vladimir this time around, no Aurelia to just instantly clean up those team fights. It's going to be a very different game for the ROCCAT lineup.
It's very difficult to execute these team fights, I think, especially for a champion like a Zoe who wants to be able to snipe out Kobbe in the back line. Well, there's going to be 4 giant tanks trying to block out those paddle stars. A lot more responsibility is going to be on Memento, a player that usually takes a backseat later on in the game to let other members on the team do more damage. Now he himself is on the Kindred, scales very well into the late game with the max HP damage on Bloodrazor. He'll have to step a little bit up more.
And to be fair, Memento, that's a player that's used to pressure. We've been putting pressure on him for a long time. We've been saying this is the guy to watch in the early game. This is the guy who makes things happen for the side of ROCCAT. And now it is not just the early game. After the early game did not go beautifully in the favor of ROCCAT, it's also the late game. Memento really has to show up, and Kindred, not a pick we've seen from him in this season thus far, and the first one just coming out from Broxah, so interesting to see what exactly he does with it.
All right, so a moment ago we spoke about Kobbe hitting his 3-item spike. He just picked himself up his 2nd tier, so really all-inning on that late game damage. But Odoamne, I want to talk about because he just got his 2nd item. The Ginsu's Rage Blade is such an important pickup for an Aatrox, and that was when he should be tearing Prophet apart in the side lane, where he should be very, very powerful. I want to see how Splyce are able to utilize that, because for now it's just been about pushing and getting rotation, but maybe they can play around him and pick off Prophet for a 3rd time around this game.
And at this point, ROCCAT are running out of towers to trade. You can see they've gotten 2 tier 2s, 1 tier 2 left standing in the mid lane. And Splyce go for another TP play. What can ROCCAT actually do? Are they strong enough to threaten the Baron? So are Splyce going to continue to go for the plays knowing that?
Well, ROCCAT so far have been doing a very good job of controlling vision around the top side of the map. They do not want to put themselves in a position where Splyce are able to take away a Baron without ROCCAT knowing, and the difference is very noticeable because ROCCAT have all this deep vision. If we switch over to the side of Splyce, it doesn't feel like they have that same intrusive knowledge of where ROCCAT are going to be on their own side of the map.
And while Blue Trinket gives you a little bit of comfort, it will not anymore, as it is spotted out. And you can see recalls coming in, TPs on the way for Nisqy. ROCCAT have a brief window here before the TPs are up, incredibly small though. It doesn't look like they're going to try to take it. And you can see he's saying making a beeline for the Baron, uncertain as to what's happening, but the second he sees Heaq appear on the top side of the map, he knows he does not need to push any further.
Right, so Splyce have been very good at punishing individual members in side lanes, but the rest of the map play has not been as cohesive. I think Kasing did have some good plays around the mid as well, but now they're using true-shot barrages to scout out a Baron when they should be the ones having priority in this match. Sure, you can make a case for they just, want to let Kobbe scale up. They want Odo to get a 3rd item under his belt, but I want to see more proactive play out of them because this is, a metagame that revolves around that ability to make those early plays happen.
The question is, are Splyce going to feel comfortable in the late game? We've heard so much about scrim culture this season, so much about how, while you do see it, yes, these kind of stompy games from teams like Fnatic, it's 10 times worse in the scrims. You have these scrims that end almost instantly. So are Splyce practiced in the late game? That's my question. Because you can see in ROCCAT stage games, they go late game every game. They're ready. They know what they're doing. Are Splyce going to have the same confidence?
Right, and are Splyce practiced playing the late game when they have an advantage? Because that is something we haven't really seen so far in this split. They've been falling behind early on, been getting closed out upon by other teams. I did like the move they just made. Look at those control wards in the topside river. Very good control out of them. Now, they have to maintain it. They need to control this bush around the mid lane and punish any ROCCAT member that approaches.
You got to be careful. On the side of ROCCAT, sejuani, Alistar, the damage isn't there yet, but Galio can be there in an instant. The TPs are up and available to the side of Splyce. You mentioned it earlier, but 4 TPs. Yes, no combat sums, but if a fight starts, it's pretty much going to start on the terms of Splyce, even if they don't have an exhaust or an ignite to help do the damage.
I don't know, I'm getting a vibe right now, Drakos. I'm feeling like we're not going to see action for a little while longer because, to me, it's Splyce that have to make the play, and all of a sudden we don't see Prophet pushing too far out in the bottom lane. ROCCAT aren't the ones overstepping a little bit, so Splyce aren't pulling the trigger.
But Splyce are doing something that I love to see, and that is pushing the vision up
Beautiful.
into enemy territory. TP now being used in the mid lane from Heaq. Memento could be in trouble here. Is going to flash out. Does trade it for the sejuani ult in the end, but not quite what they want. Splyce definitely coming out on top overall as they push in for a little bit more, and ROCCAT giving up a lot of summoners there for not the best reasons.
I mean, this is what we wanted to see, though, out of Splyce. Walk together as 5 members. You will just blow up ROCCAT if they try to fight you. Make your way into the enemy jungle and put down the vision to set up for a Baron.
This is a bold call. You can see Lucian moving towards the bottom side. They may just give it the Baron and try to trade it for an inhibitor. Not an immense amount of damage until Odoamne gets there. They are going to start to chunk this one away. Norskeren throwing some vision down over the wall. Memento is here. This was all about Baron steals. Last time we saw these teams go head-to-head. What is it going to be this time?
Well, Prophet's still going in the bottom lane. They have to all in.
Flash out. Going to look for a little bit more. Ooh, the Wombo coming through. Prophet is pushing on the bottom side. ROCCAT are absolutely outplaying Splyce right now. They baited him in. They made him believe it. They made him think they had a chance. But is the inhibitor dropping on the bottom side? Splyce have to be putting their hands on their faces and wondering what went wrong, because the tier 2 is going to follow as well.
And I like the setup from Splyce. They wanted to bait the teleport out of Prophet, but it never worked. He gets the inhibitor, and now I wonder, can ROCCAT now make their way over towards that Baron buff?
Super minions are going to start to spawn. They do not get it. There's the
pings.
Spawn.
That's a teleport.
Buy a little bit more time. They want to burn it down. They're forced onto the bottom side of the map. They're split up. The TPs are there, but there
Double
is
TP
no
behind.
vision.
Splyce are going to try for this. 2 members coming in. 3 members.
All or nothing. 3K and dropping. The Baron is down. Splyce, are they going to go for the fight anyway? They're looking. The vision is there, though. ROCCAT know what's happening. Kasing manages to get the 2-man HCC! That's the Wombo. Oh my god, Memento dies before he can use the ult. That is disaster for ROCCAT. Norskeren running for his life, looking for the 4-second back on the top side from Blanc. It is not going to happen. They're going to take him down. He's going to dodge what he can, but goodbye, baby. That is all she wrote. Splyce firing back. They give up the Baron. They get a nice consolation prize.
They can win these team fights, Drakos. We get one more look at it. 3 members joining the fight from the top. And honestly, ROCCAT, if they knew this was happening, they run straight down into Xerxe and tear them apart. But no, no, no. The chain CC, the damage out of Splyce is absolutely nuts. ROCCAT are lucky 2 members got out, I think. It's a very close call there with Norskeren and, of course, Prophet.
Absolute disaster there for ROCCAT. Literally just making Splyce look so dumb up until that moment. They get the bot lane inhibitor, they get the Baron. Nuh-uh, not gonna happen. 3 members with TP, they go, oh no, sir. Oh no. You do not get to walk out of this one alive. You can have a little bit of extra gold, that's fine. We're gonna get some kills, we're gonna look for some shutdowns.
And now it really feels like the game rests on a knife's edge because Splyce are the team with the 5 versus 5 advantage, but ROCCAT have a Baron buff on Prophet, a member that wants to be splitting up the map and going into a side lane. It's just difficult now that he doesn't have the teleport because if Splyce are able to engage a fight, ROCCAT should just lose.
1 TP left for Kobbe to block a little bit here. You can see Aatrox pushing it on the bottom side. Really tough for anybody to contest him, especially with the Xerxe now finished as well. Prophet finding a side lane. The inhibitor there being down on the bottom side for Splyce. Excuse me. Not going to count for that much.
Prophet's just going top again, Drakos. This is a rinse and repeat strategy from ROCCAT, but this time there's 5 members of Splyce headed back to the base.
That's a good call from Splyce overall. We can definitely say that. Prophet has to be careful. Of course, machine procs there are going to be real nice. Shred through that tower, but it's not going to stick around long enough. We'll stick around actually to power up the cannon creep. 4 members remaining on the middle lane here for ROCCAT.
ROCCAT are holding on to 2 Baron buffs at the moment, so in theory, they can siege 2 lanes at the same time with the Baron. The issue is they have almost no response to the all-in from Splyce. If any single member gets on ROCCAT from the side, they're just going to die. They have no disengage.
No Jaina, no Gragas, no other options. Blanc going to use the cleanse. There's no flashes available. QSS used as well. So look across the board. This is going to be difficult. If the Wombo lands, people will die, but you gotta respect Prophet. Rinse and repeat. This is one-track mind.
I love it. It's all about the top lane. It goes back to what I was saying, that the stakes we sort of set.
This is the kind of difference that I did not expect to see in this matchup. ROCCAT, you can very tangibly see macro, 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 macro. That is 8 towers to 3. Splyce, murder. 10 kills to 2. Like, they are all about killing these dudes to get advantages, and the goal just about dead even. And I don't know, a moment ago I was convinced, Ender, that this team fighting comp would just run away with it, that they'd land a few of these shotgun-style moments and it'd work out, but Prophet can just not be stopped, man. He is an immortal split pusher.
Right now ROCCAT are playing so carefully. It's a very good performance out of them, but again, one mistake means they instantly lose the game, it feels like. Actually executing this team comp is so hard. It's almost near impossible because they cannot allow Splyce to find that engagement, and once those teleports get back up for Splyce, that's when they're just going to TP the second ROCCAT show themselves in the mid lane.
The good news is some flashes are coming back for ROCCAT, so they will have their get out of jail free cards. Although it's difficult when the enemy can match flash for flash as we get closer, so not really going to be much of a summoner advantage. And the TPs, as you mentioned earlier, are truly terrifying. Baron power play minus 454 gold.
But they got an inhibitor. They got an inhibitor tower. That is so important because the way you win this game as ROCCAT is all through manipulating the waves and controlling these lanes. Prophet has to be able to freely walk up and hit turrets and pull multiple members of Splyce away from a potential objective. That's going to be the Elder and the Baron spawning up next that ROCCAT have to employ that way.
And honestly, if you're these teams, you're just on edge. Wondering what's going to happen next. Prophet is split pushing, yes, but if at any moment multiple members show up, if he gets caught, this whole thing falls apart. You can see Splyce just barrel down the mid lane now, getting control for themselves. They know Elder Drake, Baron, those are going to be the big moments that define the game, but for now, cautious little bit of pushing, waiting, buying time for those summoners to come back up.
And the big difference here from Splyce is that Odoamne has been matching Prophet. Whichever lane Prophet goes into, he's going to be there to clear away the waves, because when Prophet was bot lane and getting that inhibitor, when he was pushing top lane, Odo was trying to group with the rest of Splyce and force engagements. If Odo just matches 1 versus 1 with the Titanic Hydra, he can easily clear away these minions. That really limits the options that ROCCAT have.
And I love this. These are exactly the kind of League of Legends games that I love because it's as you mentioned earlier, the nice edge. Waiting. A single play will decide this game. A single fumble from Splyce, giving up some major cooldowns, losing 1 or 2 members. The base is going to get blown open. That's 2 exposed inhibitors. Baron, 1 minute and 20 seconds away. You have to wonder, ROCCAT, they got the last one. But are they going to take the risk ever again to group up against this Splyce composition?
I honestly do not think that you can if you're ROCCAT. Memento, hero steal would be the best case scenario for them. With the Kindred, you can do a very good job of that. You can use your ultimate to actually keep Baron alive and beta smite out of your opponent. Still a very difficult thing to pull off, but they will continue to send Prophet into a side lane because that's where they can have the most impact on this game. Splyce, I just want them to not make the same mistakes. Leave Odo bot lane. You know he has the teleport. You can clear away these minion waves and be A-okay. And that's when you play for the Baron.
And also, the double tier Ezreal is stacked, so there is a ton of damage on the side of Splyce. If he is ever given the opportunity to hit that backline, he will cut through everyone on that team. And he's got the tank line to protect him, so Odo should be comfortable isolating himself. Nisqy, though, still spending a little bit of time on the bottom side of the map. Ooh, have to back up there. Norskeren. Kasing now moving forward, though. Cannot afford to overstay. No flash juice from Norskeren, though, and that is good news. But push pressure moving in favor of Splyce on the bottom side, and the rest of Splyce pushing in the mid lane. So this is a good start for the team overall.
I want to say Kobbe, of course, can be doing so much damage, but Heaq has the tools to shred the front line. The Blade of the Ruined King, the Black Cleaver, and now the Essence Reaver as well to be skirting all the way around these edges of the fight. And usually Lucian's weakness is that he's so low range for these late game team fights. That's when he really struggles. But against 4 melee champions, he's going to have a much easier time hitting targets.
And you can see that dream scenario in your head. We've seen it in solo queue. We know what it looks like when a Lucian with Essence Reaver pops off. But to do that here against so much CC would be insane. Would take so much mechanical skill. Would be incredibly difficult. Blanc, nice flash out there. Traded 1 for 1. The TP now coming in. They're locked in the pit. Odoamne is going to look up to immediate wombo combo. They're now running for their lives. The Shen on Memento still left alive. The follow-up taunt from Nisqy. He's in the middle of everything. They're running. Tails between their legs. ROCCAT just need to make it out. Splyce not going to hesitate there. Heaq wants to get 1. The stun has not connected. Kobbe goes over the wall. He's looking for 1. He's looking for 2. Can he find the 3rd? Memento running for his life. Looking for a little bit more time on that arcane shift. Wants to move forward. Will he get the triple?
Kobbe.
Moving in. Not going to get it in the end. Heaq now running for his life. Splyce, no hesitation. Turn their sights towards the Baron. Excellent engage.
Absolutely fantastic out of them, catching ROCCAT off guard. ROCCAT just stepped a little bit too far forward, and Splyce were ready to pounce and get that objective. And it's not going to stop with Baron Nashor because Elder Dragon has now come on to Summoner's Rift, and they can barrel straight on down there to pick that up.
We look back at this play, and you can see how it started. The confidence in the engage here from Kasing, and just Odoamne, the follow-up here, the read on the escape from the pit, just well done.
It's beautiful, too, because the only way out of the pit for ROCCAT is to go straight on top of their mid laner and leave this wombo combo available towards Splyce. Odoamne leading the charge with the assistance of Kasing, and even at the tail end of this fight, Kobbe was actually on point with that last Mystic shot. It forced a flash out of Memento to eventually escape right there.
It's so good, and that, of course, makes it easy for them to take down the Elder Drake. They've done it in the meantime.
Oh my.
Oh my god.
So top laners do a lot of damage now.
So Aatrox with Rageblade Titanic Hydra does a lot of damage. Don't try it at home, though. He's a little different now. The same build doesn't work. But on this patch, Aatrox with Titanic Hydra and Rageblade does a lot of damage. Almost 6k, my god, man.
It's ridiculous. And now they've got an Elder Dragon on top of this. No flashes on the side of Splyce, so finding the engagements maybe going to be a little bit more difficult, but when Blanc doesn't have a flash, doesn't have a cleanse, this target, this Zoe, is so vulnerable for them to find that engagement.
Odoamne with the ulti available as well, so this is just going to get from bad to worse on the side of ROCCAT. It's looking pretty grim. It's not out of the question that they can come back right now, but a 5k gold lead. Inhibitors are all but set to fall. And really not a ton of wave clear here on this lineup to stop them from pushing in. Kobbe doing a lot to break down this tower. Where are ROCCAT going to put their sights?
If ROCCAT are going to come back, it is Heaq or Memento outplaying Splyce in these fights. They cannot afford to fall down because that's the tank killing ability on this team. Those two marksmen, and we know marksmen are so powerful in the late game. Now that we're here, they have to be able to execute upon that, but it might just not happen because they don't have the tools to engage fights, it doesn't feel, against this Baron-empowered Siege.
And it's difficult. The inhibitor's been broken. One was broken for Splyce earlier, though, so it is not the end of the world quite yet, but it feels like this might just be a game where Splyce get to go for the simple and clean closeout. 1 minute left on the Baron. Maybe they can break one more as the map starts to split up. Kasing with, well, a lot of cannon minions. That would be 3. So just breaking the top side. Odoamne, they're still looking for the play here onto Odo. Reset's going to start to come in. Darkfly takes him over the wall. They really want to chase this kill down. He is now going for the resurrect. He's going to be asleep when he wakes up. That's the question. Shut down in the end, but the rest of the team is pushing on the top side. Oh, that Ezreal out. Kobbe, you mad genius!
He got all 4!
That is the dirtiest shit I have seen in years. Absolutely shutting them down. Beautiful ulti. Gonna break an inhibitor. I think they could have ended the game, but so well played from Kobbe.
That was nasty. Oh my, look at all those cannon minions to Splyce. They have Odoamne sacrifice his life in the bottom lane, but that's some hashtag worth, baby, because they have 2 inhibitors now.
Good God.
Just let that sink in.
It's like flashbacks into like Xiao Zhao, like trimming waves. I was like, oh.
That reminds me of that Prey Ashe Era Worlds 2016.
You remember why this champion is always either played in every game or non-playable? Ezreal's just so good.
Okay, so I would have been fine if this was just a replay of that Ezreal ultimate, but ROCCAT did do a lot of good things, I think, to try and get this pick, because when you're put in this position, well, they're going to lose that top lane inhibitor most likely anyways because of the amount of super minions, cannon minions that Splyce had. Let's just follow it. Yeah.
Just that crisp.
Oh, yeah. Ooh, that's nice.
Ooh, and then that late locket of the Iron Solari. That was unfortunate. Ooh.
The shield, maybe it would have blocked those recalls if it was a little earlier.
This is just a good look for Splyce right now. The confidence there. This is the same kind of playmaking we saw from ROCCAT early in the game where Splyce would collapse and they would get a tower back in return. Splyce are now showing us the same thing. They're starting to level up in front of our eyes, Ender. And if you're ready for Rift Rivals, this is what you want to see from Splyce, is the confidence in the playmaking, responding elsewhere on the map, cross-mapping the enemy team. It's a good look.
You want to see Xerxe from Spring Split. Now, looking like Xerxe in Summer Split. Much, much better. And I think this big spike at the end there is coming off of that Baron plus Elder Dragon power play where they took those two inhibitors. Now, just trying to put the finishing touches on this victory with 5 members grouping up towards the bottom lane.
You're getting a little bit of chunk there, a little bit of sustain there as well. Meanwhile, Odoamne is pushing in the mid lane. The passive won't be available for a little bit longer. That's going to be important that he can't get the reset. And Memento just trying to poke, but they just do not do enough damage right now. And Aatrox looks like he may be enough of a damage threat just to bring this one home. If they're going to fight, they need to fight soon. Ulti does go wide. That is a good start for the ROCCAT lineup. Odoamne is going to go in. Norskeren, though, leaping forward. Odoamne gone in the middle of everybody, but he is going to get taken down. Memento! The resurrection. Memento wants to get a little bit more, but he cannot get anything. Odoamne has resurrected. That is a sleepy Nisqy, but they're going right into the middle of it. Heaq trying to get a little bit more damage down. Wants to get more for the team. Nisqy has gone golden. Kasing with the beautiful pull. They can't get it. Yes, they can. Norskeren is alive. The team now retreating. A chaotic fight. A double drops for Kobbe, but it's Splyce who went out in the end.
And it's only Blanc left to defend here from ROCCAT. Splyce, they're going to pick up their second win in the EU LCS.
Beautiful performance thus far from Splyce. Week 1 and Week 2 were grim. Everything stood against them, but here in Week 3, they're standing and they're getting counted. Blanc not going to make it up. Go right back. That's the ace for Kobbe. Splyce coming out on top.
The 2-0 week before Rift Rivals, changing everything we expected out of them after the first 2 weeks of play. They go for the long haul, 6 item carries with Kobbe, but so many of the members we wanted to see step up came ready for the challenge today.
Absolutely the case, and I like what we saw. It wasn't the early game activity as much from Xerxe, but he was there in the mid game once they got out of the laning phase, moving around the map. Odoamne playing like an absolute demon on this Aatrox. Things didn't go 100% perfect for him early on, but it looked good, Ender. It did look good.
The team fighting from Splyce with this composition was so much fun to watch. In that last fight, it felt like every single person on their team had a knock-up, and every single time Heaq or one of the carries on the side of ROCCAT were gonna step forward and pop off, no. In comes Kasing with the headbutt pulled. In comes Odoamne with the dark flight, and they just shut ROCCAT down.
Absolutely did. Solid performance across the board. ROCCAT still showing us a lot, but we can see some of the weaknesses, some of the cracks. They needed perfect execution to make this composition work in the late game, and it's really hard, as it turns out, to stop all that CC from landing, to stop all those wombo combos, because even if you survive as long as you want to with that Kindred ultimate, the Alistar headbutt pull was going to be up again pretty quick.
Yeah, they can still knock you out of that thing, and with Shen being the only true frontline on the side of ROCCAT, it was very difficult to kite out of those fights. I think that Prophet, doing as much as he did in this game, was certainly admirable. He got an inhibitor, got another turret on top of that, kiting these guys on Splyce's side across the map. Just in the end, you can't do that to win a game. The team fights will come, and that's when Splyce are going to beat you.
And Splyce made one misstep where they let Prophet get away with a lot of that, where they put Odoamne with the team when they maybe didn't need to, and then after that, shorted up, adapted, changed what they were doing, made sure that they weren't overcommitting in those instances. And let's take a look one more time at that final fight in ROCCAT's base. It was so chaotic.
Yeah, just, again, look at what Splyce's tanks do to deal with the damage dealers on ROCCAT at the start. Just waiting for the siege, waiting for the next minion wave to come on up. It's all going to get started off in just one moment. Heaq gets chunked out, and as this minion wave comes on in, that's when Splyce are going to be ready to pounce. course, it's Odoamne, I believe, that finds it first on Memento. After the Glacial Prison goes wide, he goes right on in, and they find Memento at the start. One of the members ROCCAT needed to win gets knocked straight up into the air by Nisqy. Next, keep your eyes on Heaq, because he's trying to kite around this fight, but as soon as he comes in, all of a sudden there's going to be a Kasing on his face. Look at that, the double knockup on 2 carries. That is some pretty stuff out of Splyce's support.
So good. I love it. The chain CC, the beautiful engages. Well, we want to know who you think deserves player of the game, so head over to @LOEsports on Twitter and vote. Your choices are Nisqy, Xerxe, and Odoamne. I don't want to influence too much, but Odoamne popped off that game.
He drew so much pressure. It was pretty crazy, and all this. I mean, I would just give it to the team, because that's when they won, was as 5 members, but Twitter will let us know, I suppose.
Let's keep it up, Splice. Rift Rivals right around the corner. All right, well, G2 are currently undefeated, but the question is, will they play the funnel comp again versus the Unicorns of Love? We're going to find out when we return.